I mean, I'm part of the DARE program in schools.
I don't think meth was a thing back when we were going through DARE. Well, when I was, I remember they just talked about like marijuana predominantly.
Pretty much.
They didn't get into like doing some blow.
They didn't talk about Hunter Biden.
Air 5. Brandy, we're doing it.
We're here.
We're doing it. And thank you, CACi, for the epic spread.
Did you call it CACi?
What is it called?
CACi's.
Get the
CACi's. Matt, I'm almost offended.
CACi?
Yeah, CACi. It's Italian.
Subscribe. Okay, well, I'm just going to do a little video. Tell the audience what we have today.
Oh my gosh. Well, now that we're off on the right foot, CACi's is pretty amazing. If you haven't been there, they're off of the main highway.
That's duck, by the way.
This is their CACi pizza, which has roasted duck confit.
That I can't eat.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. Sorry. Just like those tequila soaked grapes, Matt.
Oh my God.
By the way, I made some at home.
Melted.
They would have. We have squash blossoms. We have a salumi spread, which has meats and cheeses and nuts. They also have a chicken Tuscan kale salad for you.
Oh, that looks really good.
I'm really excited. Yeah. All right, let's do this.
You need to crush a piece of that pizza.
I am going to immediately. God. You can try the duck on top.
I actually think I'm going to.
You should. Okay, ready?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's really thin crust too. Okay, so we got did I tell you this last week? I don't think I've seen you since we got it. We got a pizza oven. We got one of the Uni pizza ovens.
Stop it. The one that you put on the counter?
Yeah.
Oh,
not inside, cool. Outside. But yeah, no, it takes charcoal. You can get a gas adapter. You can put wood in it. And it's supposed to get up to like 950 degrees. So we've been trying to my wife has been working on gluten-free pizza crust. Mm-hmm. And we just run these little 12-inch pizzas in and out of the oven. So it's our Sunday thing, which is like, okay, like we're going to do pizzas. Yes, there's a lot to it, right? Like I have a much greater appreciation for pizza now because there are even things like you got to stretch the dough. Mm-hmm. You got to let the pizza stone heat up more so the pizza cooks from both sides. If you have like a 700-degree oven with an asymmetrical heat source, right, as you do in the back, because it's in the back. The heat's not,
you have to keep rotating it.
Oh my gosh, you got to. So it's like every 30 seconds.
Well, and if your crust is too thin, as you're pulling it, it'll rip and all the toppings will fall off. So you have
it's a mess.
Nuances.
It's a mess. Yes. I'm like, okay, it's an art. Like I get it. I get it. That's like somebody spent a long time making good pizza. Yeah. How's the crust on that?
The crust is phenomenal. I like a really thin crust. I'm not a Chicago deep dish kind of gal. Occasionally, if it has a really hearty filling with a lot of meats and cheeses and things, yeah, great. But I like the fact that CACi's has such a thin, crispy crust. It's a good vessel for this duck confit. If you need to try some of this duck's. Oh my gosh. Like as a duck owner, I am saddened to say I'm eating one, but at the same time, this is phenomenal. Like it elevates a basic cheese pizza, and then they have like this garlic sauce on there.
Okay, let me ask you something. What do you think about the white sauces compared to the marinaras?
You need to have a really good marinara for me to like it. Like it cannot be sweet. It has to have a robust, really deep flavor. It cannot be bright red. Like I'm very much a snob. We call it Furiani Gold at home. Like we were doing sauce every Sunday. My father-in-law is like known for his sauce.
Okay, wait. You don't like basil and like balsamic in the sauces to sweeten it up?
Not really. So
how dare you, Brandy? That's like my favorite secret weapon, making the sauce sweet without use like basil and balsamic vinegar and it sweetens it up. So you're like, oh my God, and it gives you a little pucker.
But see, okay.
It's like Sour Patch Kids, but in marinara.
Oh my gosh, what is wrong with you?
So good.
No way.
Who hurt you?
Well,
anyway.
Do you want the long list or the short list today?
Steve.
It was Sharon.
Oh my God. Oh my God, I'm going to choke on a crazy. Dumb face Sharon. That post got there were 15 people laughing at it. And that one, Coralie was like, dumb face Sharon.
Yes. Oh my gosh. That
was
cracked
so
me
great.
up. I think for me, I really like Giada's sauce. Like she makes it in. So when she was doing this one special, she either adds the rind of Parmesan or it puts a carrot in there, and it helps offset that acidity of your tomato without having to add. Like for me, I always added a really small pinch of sugar to offset the acidity, because otherwise it just is kind of like, ugh, it gets aggressive. I add all the normal things, basil, fresh thyme, oregano, all of my really aromatic things. But I'm not a big sweet sauce kind of gal. Like my spaghetti shouldn't taste sweet. I don't know why. That kind of is like off-putting.
MTU Studios is the proud producer for the Ada County Sheriff Podcast, the Idaho Wildlife Federation Podcast, the State Representative Ted Hill Podcast, the Idaho State PTA Podcast, and many more. If you or your organization is thinking about starting a podcast, MTU Studios would love to help. Just check out mtustudios.com. I don't like a lot of sweet things, but definitely like a sweet, like a super sweet marinara, but like a
palatable, like it has like an aroma and a gentle sweetness. Is that what you're talking about? Almost like a softness.
Like, okay, look, there are certain things that I eat or consume that should absolutely be bitter and mean, like coffee. Like if you give me a coffee that's like a liquid donut, just get out of my house.
No, but like coffee. If
First
it's
off,
bitter.
I don't know why you're in my house making coffee for me, but like get out. I can't talk. Like coffee needs to be.
I have a lot of questions at that point.
Listen to me. Coffee is the only thing that I go, it's one of the main things that I used to just remind me that I can't be too soft. Because if you're drinking, like I had a friend, okay,
ready?
It was less of a friend since this. Oh, how are those? Squash blossoms.
I love squash blossoms.
My grandmother, Noni. We call her Noni.
Yes.
And I understand it's no and no. That's actually how you say grandmother and grandfather in Italian, but we call her Noni. Anyway, my point is that Noni came to my place when I was like 24. I think she was there for like my 25th birthday or something. I had purchased, I got a home, which was great. And it was back in the day when like, if you had a pulse, you could get a house, right? They were like, oh, you're alive? Like you promised? And we're like, oh, I'm pretty sure I'm alive. They're like, good enough.
Have you gone to the Red Cross?
They're like, how much of a down payment do you have? I'm like, I don't know. I have like 10%. They're like, how about we give you 110% of the value of the house? Because, for repairs. And you're like, okay. They're like, and a HELOC. You're like, wait, I already owe 110% of the value of the house. So like, that's fine. Like back in 2006.
You don't need to worry about it.
They'll just catch us back later. They were handing out money like it was going out of style. Anyway, so I get this place and I make a garden bed and I'm like really intent. I don't know why. At like 24, 25, I was really intent on like nesting and like making this little garden bed. So I have this little garden.
First house.
I know you always make the mistakes on the first. So like I make it, and the garden bed actually is great. It's shaped like a G because I'm so bothered by pathways through gardens because it's just wasted space, right? And I didn't have a lot of space, so I'm like, no, I'm not going to do rectangles and like how, so I shaped it like a G so you could walk into this area and stand in the middle and address all of the stuff around the outside, which was great. Big, thick redwood boards. It was like You
went hardcore.
I went hardcore. I had no idea what I was doing.
Zamzos would be proud.
I would hope. I have no idea. I have pictures here somewhere. Anyway, so the point is I'm like, oh, I love zucchini because then I go to the Ace Hardware. That was the only home and garden center I was close to. I was living in Oakland, right? So Ace Hardware had stuff. So I go to Ace Hardware. I'm like, oh, like I should buy some, like I love zucchini. When's the last time Matt ever messed with, like never. I remember zucchini squares from when I was a kid going to my grandma's house. That's it. But I'm like, oh, I love fresh zucchini. No, I don't.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I get these zucchini plants and my grandmother comes for my birthday. And she's like, oh, can I take some of your zucchini blossoms? And I'm like, oh yeah, grandma, of course. Sure. No need to go for it. And I never got to taste her zucchini like blossom stuff things, but she was like, oh, it was like a kid all of a sudden. She's like, oh my God, can I have your blossoms? And I was like, I mean, I guess. Mm-hmm. She went home and she ate them all just like those frozen grapes. She
didn't even let you have one.
She didn't even send me a picture. This was pre-iPhone though.
Well,
like people weren't taking pictures of food.
I will say my grandma takes pictures of food and things and sends them to me. Like things of interest or like she oh my gosh, it was the cutest thing. She was
I can't eat this kale salad if you don't promise to tell me if I have kale in my teeth, by the way.
I will do you the honor.
I just found a piece and I was like, was it there the whole time?
I would have told you if you have kale.
So your grandmother, I'm sorry.
It was the cutest thing ever. It was Easter and she was going to Easter with her friends. And she sends a picture and she looks like Audrey Hepburn. She has this cute little like matching suit outfit. And it was darling with this cute little cap. And I swear, I was like, oh, that's where I get my style from. Like, how cute is she? And when we were talking on the phone, she goes, my skirt wasn't too short now, was it? And it was like at her knee length. And I go, no, Grandma, it was perfect. I think you did great. Oh, I just wanted to make sure because it felt a little short. And my heart just, oh. Grandma, if I did not already love her with this depth of sincerity, I would have been over the moon even more. Like, she just makes my heart so happy. She would just wear this cute little outfit. So now she sends me pictures of her and her friends when they go out and do things. Like my BFF. Like, hey, what are you up to?
What are you up to?
I'm out with the girls. I love it.
Selfie girls.
Yes. And they'll be at dinner and like, take a picture for my grandkids.
Oh my gosh. Have you noticed that the tech propriety and behavior lags for old people? I'm not calling your grandma old, but it's like a buddy of mine, Kenny, goes to like Portugal with his dad and his fiance, and they'll be sitting at dinner, or they were sitting at dinner. This was years back. They were sitting at dinner, and his dad would like unannounced just stand up and be like, boom. And just take a picture and sit there like, what just happened? Did you just take a picture of me? Like, do I have kale in my teeth? Like, this is the most random, and they just do that, right? Like my dad.
Like impromptu photos.
Yeah, but there are other things like my dad. I love my dad to pieces. I love my dad to pieces, but I'll be in the middle of saying something. First off, my dad wears his bone shock headphones all the time. Are you familiar with these? The bone resonating ones, so they don't plug his ear. So he has, in effect, an AirPod in all the time. You don't know what I'm talking about. I don't think I do now. The bone resonating headphones are headphones that don't go in your ears. They have a little drum that sits right in front of your ear. And what it does is it vibrates through through your skin, and you can hear music. It's like bone resonating.
Okay, I've never heard of these.
Yeah, so they just sit here. And so what it does is it doesn't obstruct your capacity to hear actual things in your environment.
Okay.
And then when his phone rings, he can just pick it up because he hears his phone ringing and he can talk and everything.
This would be perfect for the half marathon I'm doing.
They're pretty slick. I'll let you borrow mine. You can try them out.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Yeah. He got me a pair. They're great. But he has them on all the time. And I'll be sitting there talking to him like, Dad, what do you like? This is what I'm blah, blah, blah.
Right.
He's like, oh, yeah, go. I'm like, wait, me? We're going to, he's like, no, don't do that. I'm like, wait, what? I don't get it. And
then he's probably like, stop.
He doesn't even do that. He just keeps talking as if I'm not there. I'm like, and I just fall into silence. I'm like, that's my point. Older people like missed the cue with, I have this theory. Do you remember the old school phones that were like in our kitchen with the 25-foot long curly Q?
Yep, I had a Hello Kitty one.
And like people would get clotheslined regularly walking through their house. Like everybody knew somebody.
I would wrap myself up while I was talking on the phone. Oh my God.
And it would get those kinks in it. It was like no one knew where they came from and nobody knew how to get them undone. In fact, as a younger person, I was really pissed because I was like, where does a kink? And if you twist it the wrong way, a kink appears.
Yes.
But if you twist it back the other way, it doesn't go away. I'm like, it's not going away. Like, I don't understand.
You have to like completely unravel it completely.
Doesn't make sense. Same thing with slinkies. You get a kink in it. It's like, how did I get a kink in this if I was able to create the kink with a small movement? I should be able to undo the kink with a small movement. No, you got to like unravel the whole thing. Mm-hmm. You're like, anyway. So I think our parents grew up in the age where if you were on the phone, people inherently had to fall silent because there was nowhere else to go. Because they're like, I'm the center of the house. I'm in the kitchen. Shut up. And they were like, okay, yeah, Dad's on the phone. Oh no. But now he's like, he does the same thing, but it's like, you could remove yourself from the kitchen table. Like you could go to the den or excuse yourself. Like, I'm in the middle of eating. Like,
oh, sorry, I'm going to take this call.
Yeah.
Walk away.
Or like, hey, I'm sorry. Could you just identify that there's an issue? Because I don't know your phone is ringing. I don't know you've stopped talking to me. I don't even know that something else is happening.
That's interesting that you say that though.
Think about it. Older people have like no self-control with social media.
Well, they didn't grow up in it though. It is something.
We didn't grow up in social media either.
Right, but I think our lives are more revolved around it because of how, in your role with what you do,
sure,
you were on social media in and out of the day, posting, sharing things,
Right.
developing business, all of those kinds of fun things, right? Same thing goes with me. My job inherently has me on my phone,
Right.
getting involved with technology, whereas their day-to-day retirees, they use social media as leisure. They use it as something to...
No, they use it to solve the political problems of the world. They are going to write a political post and let they're going to educate the world on
They go to their
what to do.
local congressman, Matt.
Not on what? Who?
My grandma.
Your grandma goes
That's
to
what
her
she's
local
literally
congressman.
doing. Yes. Actually, she's having an issue with...
Wait, is that Mike Simpson? Is she going to Mike Simpson?
No,
or
she's in New Mexico right now.
Oh, okay, great.
Until she sells her house, and then she'll be here.
Okay,
Then
great.
she can go to Mike Simpson.
Yeah, Mike Simpson, holla. Here she comes.
Sorry in advance. Just kidding. No, but honestly, it's really intriguing to me, the difference in approach by generation, because she's going and having this conversation with her congressman and actually getting things done. Like, she's gone to her local IRS office and Social Security because she's having issues because somebody fraudulently used her Social Security number. And then they said, oh, yeah, you made too much last year. You don't get your Social Security as much anymore. And like deducted it. So she hasn't had the full amount for the whole year. So she has been like penny pinching, doing all the things because she's on a very limited budget as an older person, retiree.
right.
And yeah, so her local congressman right now, and they have like a certain amount of time the IRS has to fill out and check all the boxes, and they have to have somebody walk through every single piece. And at least they know it's going to actually get done. Like, it's a crazy process, but it's interesting to see that there actually might be like pros to utilizing that portion of the system. That's all. I just think it's really interesting because I wouldn't have gone to my local congressman. I would have gone to the news station and I would have made a fuss in another way. Like, I would have used media as a way to gain and propulse it into whatever direction I needed it to go.
That's interesting. I'm in hot pursuit of some state level issues right now but I am able to work in the system because I happen to know the state politicians.
But you have the convenience of that.
I know that's what I'm saying. Like, without that, I would never ever know like who my representative is or like who the neighboring representatives are or like I wouldn't even know there's an education committee.
Which is super imperative when you think about it.
Right. If you want to make change, it is.
Well, and even not even just change, but if you want change in your community to happen, or if you even want things to stay the same, you have to know who to rally against or rally with and partner alongside to be able to create that change. And I think a lot of us don't have that knowledge and we're not privy to it because it's not something that's like, hey, it's all over social media who this person is, who they represent. Right. And I feel like if they had more campaigns of like, hey, I represent this area of Meridian. I am here to help you. I want to make sure I am the go-between and I'm able to represent you in our community properly. Like, I feel like that could be an amazing campaign. 2028, Matt, I'll run.
Yeah, I think that there's a really interesting. Oh yeah, if we ran, I'm telling you right now. The platform
of Matt and Brandy.
Oh my gosh, could you imagine?
Oh my gosh, like Step Brothers. Like Step Brothers, where they interview together. I just am sitting behind you in my tuxedo.
Oh my, in your tuxedo. Could you imagine if we went to like journalist interviews, like Margaret Carmel comes over and like interviews us or interviews tuxedos. Me and she's like, hey, who's the girl in the corner? You're like, oh, I'm Brandy.
We're going to be interviewing you today.
Yeah.
You're not interviewing us.
I'm sorry I was late. I had to drop off Dumbface Sharon.
But I brought donuts.
Could you imagine if we turned it around and we're like, we're going to interview you today?
You're no longer interviewing us. We're interviewing you now.
But I feel like, here's the thing. You have there's such a legacy style of campaigning. Like, they still send out mailers and they send out, they do like.
By the way, that's a lot of money that I feel like it's thrown in the trash so quickly.
Truck of money. There's a post that went out that I put out with Tom Daly.
Okay.
And again, I put out posts for everybody that I interviewed. So it's not like, I preferred Tom or something. But I put out this post just 2 or 3 days ago for Tom Daly. Okay, it was at 7,000 views like an hour ago. Now it's almost at 9,000 views. And it's like, Tom Daly, that looks, I'm going for it.
You need to get some prosciutto with the, like, almost like the Borzine cheese spread right over there in the corner with all the herbs. Yes. Oh my God. I am going CACi's. Oh my gosh, CACi's. You've made my heart so happy. The squealing on your end. Yeah.
I'm really excited. Oh my God. The olives too.
Okay, so there's olives and then I believe that's a sour cherry chutney, if I'm correct.
Chutney is just like a reduction, like it's just a reduction sauce,
Think about
right?
it
It's
with
like
a
jam.
tart cherry. And these little guys with the cheese and the meat on top of it.
I'm all for it. I'm just like, why do we have to have a new name for sauce? Like, think about it.
No, I will fight you until the death of this one. Sauces are all different. Your texture, your consistency.
This is a jam. Chutney is jam.
Kind of, but you got to figure, does chutney have additional sugars added always? I feel like jam, you already know going in, typically they have like a sugary component, whereas maybe chutney is strictly that actual fruit.
Is this mortadella?
I think so.
Oh my God. I'm so excited. I'm taking some grapes.
It's going to make us cry. Oh
my God.
So good. It brings a tear to our eye. Thank you.
Can I tell you?
Shout out CACi's for this because this is amazing.
I'm going to take a little picture of my spread here. It looks great. Can we discuss tears? My dad, God bless my dad. Again, he sent me this video. You want to watch this video?
Sure.
We should watch this video.
Yeah. What's it about?
Oh my God. You're going to see. You're going to see.
My favorite thing to do, look at people's phones. You want to watch this, Brandy? What am I watching? You'll see.
You'll see. That's the nature of watching.
That's how to get me intrigued.
Yeah. All right. Here we go. And I'll pop this up on the screen so we're all on the same page. Boom. Come on now.
Heartbeat fast, colors and promise.
Oh, it keeps going.
How
My
to
mom
be
heart can't do.
How can
I remember doing that in my dance recitals, Matt.
I remember being so alone at recitals and then seeing a parent show up and just feeling like, oh my God, I'm not alone.
Well, and it's so nerve-wracking at that age. Being on a big stage in front of a lot of people, it's overwhelming.
Oh, it's terrible. I can't watch it anymore. So my stupid dad sends me this thing and I'm in here. I'm in here like editing and he's like, oh yeah, you were so excited when I showed up. I'm like, what? What do you mean? And I click on the link and like, obviously 4 minutes later, I'm like, they're all like crying. Don't send me these things.
You're Kim Kardashian in the corner. Like looking, sobbing.
Don't reference Kim Kardashian. You just killed the moment, Brandy. I don't know. I've never seen Keeping Up with the Kardashians. I couldn't point them out.
Neither did I. But
what are you talking about, Kim Kardashian?
There was this whole thing a handful of years ago with her. She was such an ugly crier, and she's crying so much
person.
on the show. I mean, it's not debatable, but obviously. But when she cried, she made these faces that were just like off-puttingly hideous. So that's what they always talked about as a reference. Yes,
the ugly cry.
And like she did not like. Some people joke that they look attractive crying, and nobody looks attractive crying.
Who says that?
There were back in the day, in like Hollywood, they'd be like pretty criers.
Oh my God!
Like Natalie Portman crying.
No. No. Stop.
I just
Natalie
picture
Portman.
Star Wars when she's supposed to be having Luke and Leia. Remember after the whole Anakin scene? I know.
Padme is the worst. It's Natalie Portman. Look, I like Natalie Portman. I hate Natalie Portman in that movie. She's horribly cast. The acting is atrocious. I can pull up scenes that will just sober us right up and be like, okay, she was trash. Do you remember the episode 1 when she's like, we ask for your help. No, we beg you. And she like, no emotion at all. And then she like gets down and like, prostrates herself.
She's the queen. She is the queen.
So what?
She has to carry herself in a certain manner.
Queen Elizabeth had some style.
I don't want to even go there. I don't want to go there.
Right.
I ain't.
What's wrong with you?
I am not the hugest fan of the British Parliament.
Neither am I. I'm just saying there's an old lady with an appropriately long skirt that was like,
I mean, she didn't text me a picture and ask. Oh my gosh. That still to this day makes me so happy that she did that.
It sounds pretty boss.
Well, like,
can we get your grandma in here when she moves?
Absolutely.
Can we get Sarah in here?
Absolutely.
I would love to have Sarah in here.
She'll bring us, chili con carne, and she'll make like rice and beans.
Oh my
So we're going to go and visit
yes.
her this summer. So that's been our plan, is like when her house is on the market, whenever it kind of gets into the process of being ready to sell, I told her I'll come up there, like I'll help you. We'll get some things packed to make sure you're situated.
The best. You're the best,
grandma,
Grandma. Grams. Look at
We're
you.
like BFFs. She's
Look,
stuck with me.
apparently.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited because when she moves here, she's like, I don't know that I'll be doing a lot of driving. So, and I go, oh, yeah, Grandma, like I was already planning picking you up. We'll go grocery shopping. She goes, yeah, I would really like that. And I figure you're probably, going to be available because you're home more. And she goes, and then we can have dinners at my house and all. And I'm like, yes.
Grandma.
Grandma coming
How old
in
is
for the win.
Sarah?
She was born in 1940, so she will be 84 this year.
Wow, and still kicking.
Oh, yeah.
Like real hard.
Oh, yeah, hardcore.
Like sharp as a tack.
So for her, I want to say it was her 80th birthday, we took her to her concert, but we also took Vinny to his first concert, and we went to Garth Brooks at the Boise Stadium. Phenomenal concert. Like all of us dressed up in our country garb, and it was like one of the best nights of our lives. And it was so cool because he got to experience it with his great grandma, and she loved and knows all the music. So she was singing and dancing with us, and it was like, she's so fun.
God,
I love her.
awesome.
I also love the fact that like she feels as though she's earned the right to have no filter. And she's going to laugh when she hears me talking about her. But she's like, yeah, I've had a filter for too many years. Now it's my turn to talk. And I was like, okay, Grandma for the win. Grandma's saying all the things.
All the things.
All the things. I love it.
What is she saying? Like, what
Let
is
me?
the no
Okay.
filter?
She just speaks her mind now. Like she was always very timid. I remember being young and like Grandma was the mediator. Grandma was the person that just made sure everybody was like copacetic. Everybody is Switzerland. We're all going to get along and peaceful. And Grandma is just like, she says whatever she thinks and I love it. And it's like she could have no glasses of brandy. She could have a glass of brandy. It's the same Grandma through and through. Like she will tell you how it is.
I have not been drinking for a while now. But I just feel like I need a big old glass of red tonight. And okay, but I can't. Because
Does it give you a headache too?
whatever happens to me. But the point is, like, who knows? I could
very-
die tonight. I don't care. But the problem is tomorrow it weakens me. Like I need to wake up on Saturday morning with like an IV drip of coffee in my arm with like the running shoes on. And you know that like dumb headgear that you wear when you're learning how to box just because you're going to take them right in the face? That's what my Saturday morning is.
Well, because
it's a
you're going to
bloodbath.
jiu-jitsu.
No, I'm dealing with my kids.
Oh, I'm sorry. I do that every day.
I know. I do it every day too. But the problem is they go to school 5 days a week.
No.
You homeschool.
Yeah.
And we have 3 of them all running around crazy. It's like
Remind me, they're 10.
no, it's 12, 10, and 7. And it's just a knife
lot of
fight.
testosterone.
It's a knife fight. It's just bloody and guts and
I picture that duck with the knife in its mouth. Just like walking into the room.
duck?
Have you not seen the little like
No.
it's a little like emoji that they made of a duck holding a knife in its mouth? Just
No.
ready to like combat.
Look at this chutney on the
Okay, have you
little-
tried it with a mozzarella or any of the olives
yes.
or anything like a combination platter?
Yeah, it's really good. This is really good.
The food is like there's not been something that a bite has not been exceptional.
Oh, eat more of your pizza.
I'm going to. I'm pacing myself because I also shoveled that squash blossom really fast, and that has a lot of ricotta in it.
That seems
But it
pretty
was
rich.
well seasoned.
Okay, eat some and I'll talk. Do you remember the episode we were doing when we were talking about road trips?
Yes.
So I showed my stepmom, whose dad was Art, right, doing the road trip,
Right.
you know, like chopping down the tree. And first off, my dad took it like a champ because the whole point of like that, it's like Art was this like man's man that like got me across the
Your
country.
dad threw you in a car.
And like my dad threw me in the car with like the consulate Spanish, the crackhead friend of my sister's, our luggage on the bike rack in the back, and my brother learning how to drive
You
through
didn't talk about the crackhead friend. You just said she was horrible.
She was horrible. No, she's like not crackhead. She smokes meth. It's there's a difference. She wasn't
sorry.
smoking meth at the time.
I
but
was
she
not
is
aware
now.
that there is a difference. I mean, I'm part of the DARE program in
I
schools.
don't think meth was a thing back when we were going through DARE. Well, when I was, I remember they just talked about like marijuana predominantly.
Pretty much.
They didn't get into like doing some blow. Could you
They didn't talk about Hunter Biden.
bunch... Air 5. God bless you, Brandy. Well, don't worry, because neither this Facebook or Twitter.
YouTube bans you. You know why.
Oh, my
Sorry.
God. God, that's the best. What do we do with this? Like, what do we do with our nation? Like, legit. Somebody was telling me the other day that they're worried. And again, I really enjoy this person. She's a really good friend. But she was telling me about how she's worried about like Trump coming back and like how she felt it was hypocritical that evangelical Christians enjoyed Trump and, you know, because he was so terrible, but they were like on board with him. And, you know, he's this threat to democracy. And I'm like listening to her, like, I don't think any of her points are wrong, right? Like there's people can say, hey, I don't like Trump. It's like, okay, there's plenty to dislike. Like, by the way, there's no good option. There's no good option where people are like, I unequivocally love him or her.
They're human, regardless.
Right. And they're crazy people. They're all, because anybody who wants that job is crazy. Okay. But my point is, I'm like, okay, like all of those things are fine. But you're talking about existential crises to our democracy. That's totally fine. What about the actual manipulation of our democracy in recent years by like the Clintons and stuff? Like, what about what happened to like Bernie and then like Hillary gets the nomination? Like, that's an actual threat to our democracy, not a threat. That is our democracy being destroyed. And again, I am emphasizing, I am not saying one or the other. Like, I mean, obviously we live in Idaho, so you can guess where I land. But the point is it's like,
I think you like Mario Karts.
Right.
You are Team Mario.
I'm Team Mario. Man, I have a relative who was so hot for Hillary. And I was like, why? And he even told me, he's like, you know, Clinton.
It was a dude.
It was a dude. And he was
that's even more surprising.
He was coming from, you know, that plenty of people in California
right,
were like,
but it was, for me, I think I saw a slew of women, a lot of women supporting because they wanted to see a woman in power.
What about
versus men?
What about that line from, I can't remember who it was, but it was literally, there's a special place in hell for women who don't support women in politics. And it's like, okay, what about like the place in hell where you just vote because of a genitalia? Like, is that responsible for your country? But what do we do? Like, where do we go? Because here you and I are.
That's also like the whole, when Biden said, if you're voting for Trump, then you ain't really black. Like, that's basically saying by your race, you have to vote a certain way.
Oh, of course.
It's putting you in a position where you're darned if you do and you're darned if you don't. You have to vote based on your belief systems, your morals, your ethics. No. And if you're not voting based on that, then I'm sorry.
Brandy, of course. Of course. People know, like, I'm not disagreeing. Like, of course. I think the theater is more of like, the thing that I'm bothered by is not that I think you're going to be persuaded by like, there's a special ring of hell if you don't support Hillary. I don't think anybody actually believes that. The problem I have is the theater that's going on and how bothered people. Let me give you an example. And this was really dark. A buddy in the neighborhood posted this thing that from Santa Barbara, shot from this overpass. And the picture had this big banner that was dropping down and a bunch of people like masked holding up the banner. And the banner was the Aryan nation, you know, doesn't support the invaders of the US or something like that. Right. But making a disagreement with the illegal immigration in California analogous to being a Nazi youth, right? Like, and it's like, wait a minute, I get to disagree with our border policy, our immigration policies, without being a Nazi. But this is what's happening all over the place, that they're aligning a certain viewpoint of like, okay, well, like, I think there should be immigration reform, aligning that viewpoint with you're a Nazi.
Well, it's conditioning the belief.
Right. And it's so silly to me because some people get really bothered by this. They're like, oh my gosh, can you believe it? And it's like, that's fake. This is all fake. It's just a theater. And I don't think you're persuaded by it. I'm not persuaded by it, but it's like, what a joke.
It immediately makes me think of, I have stores that I shop at because I like their product. I like what they're about.
Sure.
But just because I don't shop at another store does not mean I hate them. It does not mean, it just means they didn't have what I needed, or it wasn't at the right price point, or it didn't necessarily look the way I wanted it to. I don't have to hate something to not go and do it. I can choose to like these other things and support those other things. I think of it in local business. We have multiple businesses doing the same thing in different ways because there are people that look at things differently, who like different things. And it just drives me kind of bananas that we can't have our own thoughts and feelings and opinions anymore.
But if we have reasonable thoughts and feelings and opinions, okay, let's say we were sitting here with I don't know, a huge Biden super fan. Okay. If it's reasonable for us to just sit down and communicate with each other, oh, why do you like Biden? Well, I prefer his stance on social issues.
Mm-hmm.
I'm far more pro-life or pro-choice than most people. You're
right.
All right. And I don't know. I really, for whatever reason, prefer whatever it is.
Okay.
Whatever this person is saying. Under normal circumstances, you could look at that person and be like, well, I don't share your views or your priorities or whatever they are. But okay,
mm-hmm.
Would you like another slice of pizza?
Oh, yeah. You could share a nice meal, have a conversation.
But that's the problem. If we do that, then it also leads to me being like, hey, that thing you said about pro-choice, have you thought about these things?
Mm-hmm.
Are you unequivocally pro-choice up to date of delivery, or are you is there a middle ground?
You would ask some questions.
That's right. And doing that allows us to achieve a middle ground where we agree. Mm-hmm. And then we're like, hey, that guy seems like an asshole. Oh my God. I'm sorry, Sarah. That guy seems like a jerk.
Sorry, Grandma.
Up on the stage. And, because he's going crazy. And we found a very common
mm-hmm.
ground that we can both agree with, whether or not, abortion is a very hot issue.
Right.
But the point is that allows for people to come together and then band up against the politicians. The way it is now, we can't do that. We don't have first off, a Biden superfan would not be sitting down with us because he or she wouldn't step foot in this state, right? Mm-hmm. Let alone come into the studio to share a slice of pizza. They just don't,
mm-hmm.
right? And Trump superfans don't either. If we were, whatever side we represented, the other side would be like, I can't even talk to you about it. I can't. When we used to be able, to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But that's why we go extreme. That's why there's this Aryan youth support and, are fighting against the invaders.
Mm-hmm.
We have to make anybody on either side so intense and crazy about it that there's no discussion to be had. It's well, you're obviously just a Nazi. Yeah, or I think there should be immigration reform. I don't know. That's it.
And that's the hard part is we've kind of lost that ability to communicate.
Right.
There've been wedges intentionally put in place so that way communication is broken down and we don't have that connection. And I feel like as Americans, the majority of us have families and homes and things that we treasure and value and look at in our lives as things that we want to hold on to dearly. And I think if we could all see each other as humans and we could all see each other as individuals who have their own things that they value, their own life experiences, their own things that they're going through. Because, how many times do we stop and look in the mirror and go, okay, you're having a rough day, Brandy. I know somebody else is probably having a more rough day. This really stinks what I'm going through, but I need to remember that I'm not the only person on this planet. I'm not the only person struggling with something. I need to have kindness and I need to show them kindness because I don't know what the person who rear-ended me is going through. Maybe they lost a parent 10 minutes ago and it hit them. I don't know. I'm not going to be a jerk and just yell at them. But I feel like that's what's missing is we've gone so far away from being able to have a mutual respect for others. And we suddenly go, you don't believe what I believe? Cutting you off at the heels, not even going to bother conversing with you because you're not worth my time versus going, maybe you do have something to say. Maybe you do have a valid point and maybe your beliefs are different because you've grown up differently. So there's this disconnect.
Right. I agree with you. First off, whenever we see somebody with road rage, or speeding down the road, when my boy's in the car, I have trained them instantly to be like, that person probably has horrible diarrhea. Whatever it is, you could come up.
I'm like, they probably have to poop, guys.
So bad.
We'll let them go.
So bad. Oh my God. Go. Just get it.
How often do my kids have to pee in the car? And I'm like, you better pinch it.
Right.
We are going home. We are not stopping at a gas station.
And you got to go fast and kids are losing. So it's like, you have to have that compassion.
Yes.
But like, I have a really dear friend, Scott, back in California. And he's a really, like, I've known this guy for a long time. Good man. And there's nothing you could say to get him to vote for Trump. There's absolutely nothing you could say because his wife has had some really bad experiences, and the nature of the political campaign that was run around Trump was that like, oh, he's this, sex predator and, raped women and all of these things. Mm-hmm. And just on social issues, Scott's like, I could never vote for him. Now, mind you, no qualms with anything Clinton did or the fact that like, any of that stuff, right? Okie dokie. Right. So you have, you just, it doesn't make me dislike Scott. It's just like, we're not going to see eye to eye. Like, and by the way, I'm not operating under the, I have not conceded the idea that just because somebody's accused Trump of something that makes him guilty of that thing, which everybody operates under now. There's like all these women came forward from like 30 years ago. And I'm not saying it didn't happen. I'm just like, okay, well, like, was he convicted? They're like, well, you don't know. It's like, well, then what's the barrier to entry here? Like anybody could say anything. Thank God we're on camera. You could never accuse me. Like,
I also feel like that's questioning my character because like, if I was to accuse you of something, like being the honest person I am, something would have had to happen. Like that doesn't just, I'm
not worth anything and I'm not running for office. So there's that.
No, it's like, I think there's just a very specific person who is motivated by certain factors that looks appealing, maybe monetarily or things of that nature. But I mean, like,
and that's not to say men don't do horrible things to women. And that's not to say like people don't do horrible things to people.
Speaking of that, there was this viral campaign that kind of went around this last week. And I meant to bring it up. So this is kind of the perfect
Oh my
segue.
God, hit me.
So they asked groups of women, would you prefer to be stuck in the middle of nowhere with a man or a bear? And astoundingly, the majority of women go, oh, absolutely a bear. And it was really intriguing to see the response of people watching these videos and the commentary, and totally get like, not every man is a horrible person. Obviously, like I have a wonderful husband. I'm raising wonderful sons. I have great fathers and father-in-laws. And like we have wonderful men in our family. So I have a jaded opinion where I would lie if somebody asked me that question. But it's interesting because so many women go, well, the nature of a bear, the nature of a bear. He's going to attack. You know what you're going to happen if you get in the place of a brown bear, a black bear, whatever. Like, what you're going to have to do to handle the situation. You don't know what to anticipate with another human or what their motives are or if they're manipulating or if they're going to catch you in a moment of weakness. And it's really intriguing, the conversation that came about with this one weird question.
Brandy, look, do you know anybody that responded the bear? Do you personally know somebody?
Personally, no.
Okay, this is my point. This is exactly the same as the Aryan Nation thing. Whoever is driving this campaign is trying to drive wedges between the genders, just like you drive wedges between political parties, just like you drive wedges between upper and lower class, middle class. Like, this is just a wedge driver. Like, I don't know any rational woman who'd be like,
chosen a bear.
I'll take a bear because men are terrible. And like, I could make it like, fine, I'll choose a bear because I don't trust women because they're like out to get me. It's like, fine, like we could say it, but like, that's not reality.
But like the reality is, if somebody had asked me that question, I'd say, oh, the human, automatically. Like, I know my capacity as a woman. I know how to protect myself. If I was put in a situation in which I had to protect myself, I could. But like,
what kind of question is this?
Why would I put myself in a situation where I could get mauled by a bear? I know what's going to happen. There's the slight chance something else could happen on the other end. But why would I openly put myself in that situation?
Listen, if you're in the middle of nowhere, like the people in Africa, in like the Sahara, they're not saying like, oh, I better get away from all other humans. These are two people that are working together.
Yes.
To try to survive. And if you're trapped on a desert island with somebody, you're like, okay, you're it. I can't rely on the palm tree or the coconut or the whatever, right? We rely on other human beings. So just the question presents this unfair assumption that like you need to be on guard, when in reality throughout all of human history,
it was implied.
Like, yes, there are bad people. There have always been bad people.
But they don't outnumber the good. In my personal opinion, that is such a fractional number. And it's growing, but I also think there's a lot of trauma that also pours into like people getting worse and worse and worse. And like, that's a whole nother conversation.
I think people are getting emotionally less capable. Like they're not, I mean, this is obviously, this is actually a really clear point that Jonathan Haidt made in The Anxious Generation, that like people are less capable now when they hit like 20 and 21, 22 and 23 of dealing with emotional swings, and emotional issues. Like you're just less capable because you're like so teed up. You're so ready to be like freaked out and offended. You're in defend mode the whole time. Defend mode. It's like, no, if I'm in the middle of nowhere, I need another set of hands. Because by the way, both of us are like, the odds of us surviving this are really slim. So look, you want to attack me? Now you're going to be alone. Yep. Okay, what good is that going to do?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, somebody needs to be gathering, hunting, getting shelter ready. Somebody has to be cooking and making sure campsite is getting prepared. Or like there are so many things that would have to happen like congruently that you need two people to be able to survive and get through, even to make it to the next day.
Right.
So it was just astounding to see, and it makes me really curious because of the platforms that I saw this content on, is how much of this is intended to start creating wedges and creating narratives that force people to think certain ways or gear them to think certain ways when certain issues come up.
It should.
Maybe politically, per se, potentially.
Yeah. No, the whole thing. Excuse me.
Because if we can't come together, then we can't do anything.
This is why the frequency with which people talk about Marxist ideology cracks me up, because I wonder how many of those people actually have broken. Like people replace Marxism with communism. The idea of Marxism versus communism being like shared ownership or somebody taking away something from you. But in reality, Marxism, excuse me, my goodness, is at its core a differentiation between a very small number of like all powerful people and then like the abused people. It's like you have the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. That's all it is. And to effectively implement this and get the proletariats to rise up against the bourgeoisie, you have to convince them that they're being like ravaged and taken advantage of, and that there's this great movement out to get them, which you see in sexism, right? Feminism. It's the men. These men are out to get women. It's like, I don't know. I'm married to a woman. Like, I don't think I'm out to get her. And if she thought I was out to get her, like, why'd she marry me? Right. So you have it with that. You have it in environmentalism. These tiny portion of population that are raping and pillaging our environment for their own ends. It's like, okay, but I also like want my light switch to work. So like maybe Exxon has, or like, the coal fire plant. Like, I don't know. You see it there. You see it in every aspect of Democrat versus no, but it's not just extremism. It's setting up a two-party assessment, which is like, if you are not with the proletariat, if you do not stand with the abused and taken advantage of, then you're as bad as the oppressor. You're as bad as a person. And it's like, wait a minute, this isn't reality. Like, yeah, let's say there are some men who abuse women, and that's terrible and horrible. There are also men that come to the women's rescue. So like, how does that play in there? And like, okay, yeah, there are some people that have made money doing things that were not great for our environment. That doesn't mean they didn't have grandkids and want to leave an okay environment as well. And these issues are very, very complex. And we also have needs that are very unfair and one-sided, like plastic. You like plastic? I love plastic. I got everything here is plastic, right? Do we love plastic being in our ocean? No, I don't love it. But like, how am I supposed to get rid of all this plastic? You go pick up the food to go. What are you supposed to do with the plastic? Right? Like, I didn't design this system. Right. These are really complex things. So is the plastic CEO, is he like some, baby killing, horrible person? No, he's like running a company, providing us with things that we all rely on. Just stop.
The complexity is exactly where I would have gone with that conversation. Is the issue is not a black or white issue. There's a lot more pieces of the puzzle. There's lobbyists. I mean, we talk through like what I find is really intriguing is one of the top lobbyists for women's like maternal leaves is actually Nestle. Because if women don't go back to work at a certain point, they're more likely to breastfeed and they're less likely to use formula. So Nestle has one of the top paid lobbyists to lobby against maternal, extended maternal leave.
Oh my God.
The baby companies, yeah. And there's
Wait,
lawsuits.
how did you know that? That's crazy.
For years. They've been doing this many, many, many years. Because when I had kids, I had to go and really look through what does my leave look like because I lived in California at the time. Thank goodness I had paid into a system and I had, you know, an X number of weeks of leave. But you got to figure, like leaving your brand new baby, you've had babies, like you know all the necessity that goes into life and taking care of them. So it's really
from a dad's standpoint.
Yeah, and so when Nestle advertises and with all these beautiful babies and making sure moms and families are comforted, it is so interesting to me because it is so functionally different than how they operate. And it's intended for their profit because they lose profit when moms don't go back to work.
Oh my God.
It's crazy. It is crazy. So yeah, look into it. Baby food companies, formula companies are some of the top lobbyists against maternal leaves. So it's very complex. There's way more facets than a lot of people realize.
Brandy, what do we do? What do we do?
We do this.
We do. I've been so like, I'm really bothered by tech in schools and tech in general infiltrating our children's lives. I have young men. I don't want them gaining access to inappropriate material on cell phones and tablets and everything. I don't want them being groomed by weirdos.
Ew.
I mean, right. Today's turning dark. But I don't even know where to send them. I mean, I don't mean send them like to school. I mean, on the weekend, like when we were kids, you go to a friend's house. It was like, fine, everybody says playing in the street. Fine, we played in the street a little. But I'd go over to Matt Rosso's house and like, oh my God, we'd play Nintendo in his room. Like whatever. We go over to people's houses and like hang out, like play in the backyard. Like we didn't play in the streets, but we had friends that we would go to their houses and play. Okay. Or they would come to our house. Fine, whatever. But now I was telling my wife today, it's like, who do we send our kids to? Right? Because I don't know. I don't either. I'm like, I don't know. Unless there's a family that has an express policy, they're like, hey, you send your kid over. I just want you to know there's a no tech house. They're not going to play on tablets. They're not going to play consoles. They're not going to be, I don't have like an older child who's like walking around the phone, going to show them something. Like they're just going to play. Like, so if you're looking for electronic entertainment, it's not going to be at my house. I don't know anybody like that. And that would be a requirement for me. That's what your house is?
That's pretty much what my house is.
Over to my house.
We always do like, hey, yeah, it's great. I will have food. You don't worry about eating. Like, what do you guys have weird allergies? And it's funny because Vinny the other day was like, Mom, when my friend comes over, he has this friend who it's really funny how we actually knew them years ago and we reconnected over Pokemon of all things. Jax is going to come over. Can you make one of those things that you usually do? And I was like, what do I usually make? He goes, you know, where you put out like the tray and has like the fruit and the treats.
He
and
wanted
all
a charcuterie platter.
And I was like, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I note this on this day of April. You have noted that I am the mom that always has a snack tray out for you guys. Yes. And you know you're going to have like good killer snacks. And he goes, yeah. And I go, I've reached the pinnacle.
Everything.
I've done everything.
I did it.
I can die now. I can die a happy woman. But it's just interesting because we've always become that house that I'm like, no, you guys just come over here. Let the kids play. Like we have the trampoline. We'll watch them through the windows. We can be outside sitting and watching them. They're going to go upstairs. If they go upstairs, this is where all the toys, this is where the games are. If they're going to do that, I'm probably going to check on them every 10 minutes to make sure situations, nobody's allowed on beds. Like these are my clear boundaries. And it's just interesting because when you say that, like, I don't think through that because I just invite people over. Yeah.
And that's, I think, what we're coming down to, which is...
You're becoming the hub. Like the place where kids just come here, you know, it's a safe zone.
Yeah. And that's just how it has to be. And I don't like that. I don't like that I have this anxiety in the world, but I'm not capitulating on it. Like I'm not giving it up.
Yeah. Because you'd rather know that there's safety.
Right.
You'd rather know what you're getting yourselves into.
You know what's so funny? Parents being overly protective is predominantly blamed on news media from the 80s and 90s that showcased really horrible instances of child abduction. And like, hey, all the parents are worried that the kid's going to get grabbed. And that's true. Like, people worry. It's like, oh, my kid will get kidnapped. Fine. It's not fine. That's terrible. But it's hyper unlikely. Like, it's super unlikely. I think it's between 100 and 200 cases per year in the United States where children are abducted by somebody that the people don't know and not reunited with their parents within 48 hours. Very, very few. Now, it doesn't mean it's not a parent's absolute worst nightmare. The FBI has like a team of 100 people that are like fly-in teams. The second it happens, they descend onto the home.
Wow.
Like, these are hundreds of professionals that instantaneously go into top level pro work, and they do everything possible. These are not common. Okay, it's far more common. A hot one is obviously pools. You drown. Another one is a side gate is unlocked and a kid gets hit by a car. Another one is you get crushed by something like a bookshelf falling over when you're wrestling around. You get smothered. Like, these are the ways that kids actually die. And aside from the pool, nobody worries about it. Right? Now, when we criticize people for worried about kids staying safe, they're always like, your kid's not going to get taken. Okay, but now I'm not even worried about my kid getting crushed by a bookshelf. I'm worried about them being groomed online. I'm worried about, like, especially for young men. Like, I don't want them seeing pornography at the age of like 10. Like, hardcore crazy porn that some kids like, dude, look at this. And they could do instantly. And it
changes their brain chemistry without
my gosh.
an instant.
And they don't understand what they saw. And they're like, oh my God. I mean,
and there's more questions than there are answers.
And they instantaneously are like, let me see it again.
Because their brain fired up in a weird way that they've never experienced.
It's like a short circuit. And especially for men, like I was telling somebody just the other day, I hate that that's a part of being a man. Like, I hate it. I actually deeply dislike that I have a lizard brain in the back of my head that's like, hey, look at that. I'm like, no, my God, like, where did you come from? Go back, get away. Right? Like, I'm happily married. I've been with my wife since I was like 22, 23. I don't like that. And I can't turn it off. And it's like, it's become less prominent as I've gotten older, but I deeply despise the fact that it's there. Cause it's like, I don't like that pops up and rears its head. And I don't want my kids engaging with that as young men.
But it's interesting you say that, because so we were at the thrift store, love to thrift. Like, I'm on a treasure hunt all the time. Like, one of my favorite things.
A treasure hunt all the time.
It lights my brain up.
Is there a favorite thrift store you have in Eagle?
Okay, so in Eagle, I like the Idaho Youth Ranch there. My son likes it because they have Pokemon cards periodically. Like, they have some really cool one-off items. I got this crazy old book that was from like 1915. So they've had some really cool gems there on occasion.
I really enjoy that too. I was there a week ago.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
My favorite in Meridian is the Goodwill. The Goodwill off of Cole in Boise is pretty good. There's lots of different little one-offs. St. Vincent's is really good when, like, they have a really good find. Like, my neighbor found me these beautiful old brass bells, and I put them out at Christmas time next to my mantle and all the things. So we were on a treasure hunt, walking through the toy aisle, and there's some rando kid on the floor. He's probably 4. Only he looks just slightly older than my little guy. And I'm going, okay, where are the parents? Like, immediately, because as a parent, I am always looking out for everyone's kids. Like, inherently,
you're a part of the village.
I am. Because I will be darned if something happens to somebody's kid and I could have done something. Right. Because I would expect other people to, if they saw something funny with my children, they would be
swoop in and help.
Yes. Protect them, you know, because they are the people we have to protect. Right. So this little boy's on the floor and he is ripping open bags.
Okay.
And they're bags of Barbies. And I'm like, okay, one, like,
hey, little guy.
What are you doing? Where's your parent? Trying to figure this out. And my son looks at me and goes, Mom, he's opening bags with his teeth. And I'm like, not my kid, not my problem. Like, there's only certain things I can impede with, right? Trying to keep that boundary of like, this is not my role. So I finally see.
Stay on the treasure. Stay on the treasure.
Yeah,
look for the treasure.
Stay focused. Get your eyes off. Okay. And it gets better. So he's ripping Barbie bags open, taking these dolls out, assessing what he has, taking all of their clothes off.
Okay.
And then the Barbies are on the floor with active movement is all I'll say. And I'm watching this little boy who's barely older than my little guy do this. And I find a lady working there and I'm like, hey, just wanted you to know there's a little boy ripping bags open at Barbie's, taking all the clothes off. Everything's all over the floor. She's like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll clean it later. Okay, cool. Nobody seems to care that this, but I didn't mention what this kid is doing. I just removed my children because
you're like, it looks like a scene out of Team America. I'm just saying.
Yes. And my thought immediately was, what has this child been exposed to? What has he seen? What has he seen older siblings talk about? Look at, like, if he is that age at 4, potentially 4, maybe 5 at max, experiencing, looking at these things, doing these things, this is inherently what my child is exposed to with other kids. And that is so off-putting. I've not had to think through that until I saw that situation go, oh my gosh, like, oh my gosh, that is crazy that, and I'm not this person that's like, shelter them from everything. I think there's an appropriate time to have certain conversations. There's an appropriate time for you to be exposed to things. Right. And in this world, the appropriateness gets shoved out the window, right? We are just so overwhelmed with media and what they try to push and what they show us that is typically not appropriate for our ages. And it just baffled me that is what is going on with kids barely older than mine. And I would never anticipate to see my children do something like that. Yeah. Just a little off-putting. So note to self, don't go to the Goodwill Wednesday at 3.
God bless it. I love that you mentioned the time. This is
and that
this
was another
is my
thought.
concern.
Like, where's your parent?
This is my concern. This is my concern. Like, where do we go when even though I have a no-tech policy and you have a no-tech policy, where do we go with our kids to give them proper socialization, but also have some level of assurance that it's like they will not be exposed to whatever that kid saw.
Right.
Or what about the kids that have seen things and then act on that in the world? So even though they don't have the phone, like there was this case, oh my gosh, this was really sad. Your
goal is to get me to cry today. From the beginning with these videos.
Shut up. But there was this little boy who lived up the street from us in California who was great. He was always riding his dirt bike around, and we lived on a really sleepy street, and we'd always see him like, oh, it's little Michael. Great. And his parents they'd gotten together older. The dad had been divorced. He was great. He was a fireman. And the mom, anyway, the point is they get married and it's like this miracle kid because I think they were both in their 40s. And they're like, wait, I didn't even think we could get pregnant. So they have this kid, but they very much agree with like free range parenting, which was, hey, look, man, like, come on. And they were older, like, get out of the house, go. They weren't as concerned about things. Again, getting him a dirt bike and then, going off jumps and the whole thing.
Right.
So this kid's like 8 or 9. He's right around my kid's age at the time. And we were saying like, gosh, we should have him over. Like he'd be a great addition. We have 3 little boys. He's a little boy. Like we go around and he actually goes home one day because he's like, oh, I'd love to come over with like my BMX bike. Because all my boys had BMX bikes and we'd set up little ramps in our backyard because we had this like track that we'd go around. And he goes home and he draws out this like, obstacle course that we're going to build in the backyard. This is what the other kid does. We're like, oh my God, we like put it on our fridge. We're like, yes, we're going to do it like next week. Okay. Awesome. Well, in between then and the time we had established to do the obstacle course, the other neighbor comes over. We're like, what's up, man? How are you? And he's looking a little sketchy. And he just came over for a beer. He's like, oh, man, tough week. He was going through a divorce with his wife. And we're like, oh, yeah, I'm sure, man. Divorce is terrible. No, it wasn't the divorce. It was that this kid goes over to the other neighbor's house, and the other neighbor has like a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, and gets the 6-year-old to do some really bad things that he could not have invented himself. This is not curiosity. This isn't like it's like a, hey, why don't you do this? And we were like, oh my God. And it was the kind of thing where it's like, there's no way he came up with that. He's this free range kid, always had babysitters coming and going. He was always hanging out with like rando adults. So somebody got to him and hurt him. And this kid now is sharing the experience with other people.
It's a domino.
It's a domino. So even if it's like there's a no tech policy, what do we do? Because the devil has infiltrated our society. Like as concerned parents, like what do we do? I love the, hey, like no jumping on beds. I say no bedrooms. Like you're staying in common spaces. And you could be upstairs.
For the most part, we do. For the most part, we have that kind of rule. There is a handful of very, very
you have the close.
vetted.
You have really close.
I'm trying to find a kind way of saying. You have a vetted group of people.
You're gonna have to trust somebody. You can't be like, and you go through whatever process.
But we have, even with my own 2 sons, we have a no bed policy. Like, there's no reason you need to be in your brother's bed. There's no reason he needs to be in your bed. I don't care what the situation is. Like, that is not acceptable.
Sure.
Because it's a weird ground rule we've set. Because if the expectation is you guys aren't on each other's beds, the expectation is you're never on somebody else's.
Oh, that's a great one. I have not thought about that.
Bottom line rule, you are never on anybody else's bed other than your own. Like, it's just a weird way you have to live.
Are we crazy, Brandy?
I don't know. Because somebody probably is going to say, oh, that girl's crazy. But you know what? I will take crazy 100 times over versus the trauma and the therapy my children will need in the future for me not have protected them. I will gladly let them go to therapy for a crazy, controlling mom versus somebody who hurt me.
Yeah, Instagram. She didn't let me have the cell phone. She didn't blah, blah, whatever. Great. Yeah, go.
Because one day you're going to understand why I didn't. And I know you'll have a respect level later. Like my parents, my grandparents, my grandmas always used to say to me, you don't understand what your parents go through until you become a parent, until you get married. Once you get married, once you have a kid, that relationship and the way you view them will change. And I was like, okay, cool, whatever. Like, they're still my parent. I'm never going to change. But it's really amazing when you process through maybe the decisions they had to make to protect you that you didn't realize that they were doing. It makes a whole lot more sense why I wasn't allowed to do sleepovers. It makes a whole lot more sense why if we had somebody come play, they had to come play in our backyard. Like, it was a very understood concern. And respected concern, because I'm very fortunate that my life turned out the way it did, because it could have gone in such a different direction had something different happened, So I just feel like we can be chastised for being protective, but I would much rather somebody think I'm overly protective than not have done what my child needed me to do, to be there for them, to show up, right?
Right.
God, we got deep on this episode.
This is really intense.
Oh my gosh, I know. You need to try the duck before it gets too intense.
Okay. Oh my gosh,
before one of us cries and it turns into a therapy session. Perfectly cooked.
God, that's fantastic.
And honestly, had I not known it was duck, I probably wouldn't have known, because it has a weird, like a texture and consistency of that of like chicken thigh.
But it's got a sweetness.
Yes, because they have like a spicy honey on it. You know me, like that's the last really pizza we got was like a spicy on the top too with the sweetness. Oh, it was delicious.
I'm a big fan. You know my issue though? The barbecue chicken with a garlic sauce pizza became really popular like 20 years ago, and I just hate it.
Why?
I hate it. I don't know. I like a red sauce. I like a classic pizza. Get the hell out of here.
That's why you were asking me.
Get the hell out of here with your barbecue sauce and your chicken on top of pizza.
I feel like I feel like there's a line, because I use my jalapeno crema as a sauce all the time.
That's different. First off, that's a crema, right?
It's a cream sauce, Matt.
I'm just saying the white sauce no, I'm not a fan.
I had a squirrel moment. I forgot to tell you I made conchas this weekend. Or
Did
this
you
week.
Bring Matt any?
They're not gluten-free, Matt. I know. I'm sorry.
You could have brought one. I could have smelled it.
We are going to call them celebration conchas.
When are we doing Gaston's? Because they seem down with giving me a pastry.
I'm excited. I can't tell you anything. I keep everything a secret.
I can tell. Oh God! Thanks, Gaston.
I'm really excited. So I call them celebration conchas. They taste like a birthday cake. So I use like an almond extract, a vanilla extract in the frosting, as well as in the dough itself. Matt, I literally, before my kids got up the other morning, I made a cup of coffee and I sat there just shoveling one of them because they were so good.
Oh God!
And then they they had little sprinkles on top, and they're dye-free sprinkles and allergen-free, and they were actually not gluten-free. They were egg-free and dairy-free as well. I know. So the only thing they really had that you couldn't have was gluten. So now I just need to find a good one that allows.
Don't
it's
for
a
me.
dough, it rises.
Okay.
different.
Okay. There might be a solution to this because a buddy from jiu-jitsu, actually, I haven't met this guy, but he trains at the same jiu-jitsu gym. I'm sure I've met him in passing, but he reached out and he's like, hey, I hear your episode with Brandy. We took my son to this place in Boise. He had horrible reactions to gluten. He had like celiac. They cured him.
Is it with the injections?
I don't know, but I hate needles.
They have one that they do like a tincture for your allergies, and they have places you can do injections.
Okay. He said they
We should get them on the show to do this experiment with
that's
you.
actually, I really want to do that. Penne osteopathic.
Okay.
What's osteopathic?
I don't know.
Maybe he meant to put osteopathic, but it's OATEO. It's probably OS, osteopathic. Whatever. PEINE, right? And he suggested Peter Abram from Penne Osteopathic in Boise. Peter Abram, shout out. I would actually love to do an
cool.
experiment where I go through this treatment and then I just eat a whole duck confit pizza and leave the garlic sauce on it. I don't even care.
Everything.
I would love it.
You should do it for gluten and dairy.
Watering. Well, no, it's not even the dairy. I don't care about the dairy. Like I can take a milk pill. I can take a milk pill, but I can't take a gluten pill.
I know, that's so sad.
No, it'd be great. We should do this.
We
This
should get
be
you through
as
this
like
treatment.
an established, because this guy reached out
They can
after
just
like the last
experiment
show.
on you.
Let's do an experiment. Let's do it because like I really
We
want to eat
volunteer,
that.
Matt.
Yes. Oh my God, we volunteer, Matt. This is a great idea. Shout out Peter Abrams. We're coming for you.
Yes.
Okay, Brandy, listen, we need to finish this pizza and have a good time.
Yeah, because next week we're going to be golfing.
Yes. Talk about the golf tournament real fast.
So we are 1 week away today when we're filming this. We are so excited. We have a handful of teams left just at that last cusp if anybody wants to sign up. Otherwise, it's going to be a banging day, May 17th, 9 a.m. shotgun start. Tons of fun sponsors, lunch, drink tickets, raffle prizes, like everything's going to be a blast.
And we're going to be there. We're going to be there.
Yes.
Or we're getting a dedicated golf cart,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. So we're going to be there with the camera. We're going to be there going live on social media. It's going to be fun. We're going to take over.
God, I'm bringing my high quality lapel mic.
Oh, absolutely.
So we can like really do this right. We should get a tripod too. We should have like tripods that we hang out the side of the thing. So as we hit the tree, because we're definitely going to hit a tree, like if it goes flying. This is going to be so great. I'm super pumped about it.
It's going to be great.
And shout out to CACi's. Where are they? Let everybody know.
Okay, so they are off of State Street. They are, oh my gosh, is it Ironwood right there? What is that street that goes into
I can't
it?
remember. They're near the Eagle Tennis Club.
Yeah, they're right next to the Eagle Tennis Club, Starbucks, that I think it's a teppanyaki place next door now. It used to be a Greek place, but they are firm. They are there. They have a beautiful happy hour, wonderful wine choices. These squash blossoms, if you are there, I highly recommend them, as well as this CACi pizza. Dude, everything is delicious. Everything is freshly made, and they change up their menu all the time. So go in there, try this stuff because they're bound to have new fun things.
And I have to say, the cheeses were really good.
Exceptional.
Yeah, the meats and cheeses were on point.
And guys,
And the salad was good too, if you're into kale.
oh, totally. Show them some love. Their social media got hacked, so go follow them on Instagram. They're trying to regain. Oh yeah. So really big shout out to CACi's. Follow them on Instagram. Show them some lots of love. Reshare their posts. Let's get them back up and running. So
God bless
lots
it.
of love to them.
Brandy, thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Eagle Chamber, for always being awesome and letting you come in and do this.
They're
it's
wonderful.
my favorite part of the week. God
Mine
bless
too.
it. Awesome. Thanks,
Awesome.
Brandy.
Thanks.
MTU Studios is the proud producer for the Ada County Sheriff Podcast, the Idaho Wildlife Federation Podcast, the State Representative Ted Hill Podcast, the Idaho State PTA Podcast, and many more. If you or your organization is thinking about starting a podcast, MTU Studios would love to help. Just check out mtustudios.com.